Your sales team does not have a strategy problem. It has a human performance problem. Look, every organization right now is going through a lot of change. AI, sales methodologies change, enablement platforms, leadership training, technology, you name it. And quota attainment continues to decline in some cases. So high performers are burned out. Managers are spending more time firefighting than actually coaching consistently. That execution breaks down precisely when the business needs that consistency at the most to scale. Hi, I'm Amy Looper, and after more than 20 years in sales myself, building my own company, working with many early stage founders, and in selling in high stage SaaS companies, I became obsessed with one question. Why do talented teams stop executing when the strategy is actually right? That answer changed how I thought about leadership itself. So here's the problem. Most organizations assume inconsistent performance is a skills gap. So they invest more in training, more in tools, technology. They put Gong in to record all your calls and all the dashboards and processes, right? Sometimes those investments help, but they rarely solve that deeper issue that your clients feel because execution doesn't happen inside the CRM. That's a management tool. It happens inside people where leaders and teams operate in chronic stress and their very capabilities that the business depends on, like clear judgment, collaboration, adaptability, trust, courageous decision-making, they begin to erode. Not because people stopped caring, but because their capacity just changed. It can be limited. So the question isn't whether your organization has performance strategy. The question is, do you have human capacity to execute it? I've come to believe that every organization is operating within three different systems. Whether leaders are intentionally managing them or not, the first one is your leadership state. Your internal state really enters the room before your strategy does. It's how you show up. It's your tone, your pace, your regulation or lack thereof, urgency, your presence. That's not soft skills. That's your biology. That's your nervous system. It's everyone has one. And people simply just don't become leaders. They regulate around them. The second system is behavioral patterns. Under pressure, people don't suddenly become different. They really amplify the versions of their existing patterns. Some will avoid difficult conversations. Others micromanage. Others become defensive, and others just disappear. That you don't hear from them, right? We often label these as motivation or performance issues, but in reality, these are capacity issues. Their bodies and their minds are just at capacity. And you can't coach someone into sustained high performance and tell them to change their mindset if they're in chronic threat or they perceive chronic threat. The third system is environment. Culture is not built by values hanging on the wall or the pool table in your break room. It's built by thousands of leadership actions every single day, every single call, every pipeline review, every one-on-one. And I have another video about coaching during your one-on-ones. You can check it out. But every executive meeting, every response to failure, everyone's evaluating that. Leaders either create environments where people think strategically and feel safe, or environments where simply they survive and they get through the day for a paycheck. The organizations that consistently outperform understand that all of these are connected to win. Okay. So I've worked with enterprise sales organizations where quota attainment was hovering around like 40%. They weren't doing so hot. The product was competitive. There's product market fit. The strategy made sense. But the leadership team was operating in constant urgency. You know, the times where you're just running around chasing your tail, that urgency spread throughout the organization, and most people are operating out of anxiety. Coaching became reactive if it even existed. Forecasts became defensive. There was absolutely no innovation. And that was capacity falling apart. I've seen healthcare leaders carrying impossible emotional loads where decisions quietly became longer and nobody recognized burnout. I've worked with founders who had amazing products, strong funding. There was market demand, but they remained the bottleneck because the pressure that shaped every conversation their team had, it was too much. It was too much pressure. And so underlying that pattern, the leaders really dictate the capacity of the organization. So that's where you have to work on resilient leadership skills. The organizations that with the sustainable growth over the next decade, I believe, won't be the ones with better technology or strategy. It's going to be the ones that have leaders that are capable of creating environments where people consistently can perform under pressure. That's that resilience part, right? That's the competitive advantage in business today, because companies rarely lose performance just because they run out of strategy. They lose it because the people run out of capacity to execute consistently. And so if you take one idea from this conversation, just know that we are responsible as leaders for executing, but also building our own capacity, and everything grows from there. So if any part of this conversation challenged you in a way to think about your own performance, I'd love to connect. I'd love to connect with your leading a revenue organization, scaling a business, navigating change. These principles will help you lead capacity required for that high performance. And if these conversations resonate with you, subscribe to the channel. This is what I talk about, how to really lead. And each week I share practical insights on enterprise growth, leadership, human performance, even the nervous system. I go into that. So helping people really perform consistently through change is so fundamental. And the future belongs to those leaders who can develop people and not just process. So I look forward to seeing you next week, and reach out if I